How do we know what's right from wrong? Is there a way to understand how to use that in position locations? Understand how to use the mind? There's understanding how to use the brain, the heart, the soul, and the body. It's all alignments and settings. So there's no right or wrong of anything, okay? Because it's the psychological of you inside the game of yourself. It's just about you understanding how to really navigate it, understand the words, because it's not words. Is it words? Is it frequencies? Is it energy, vibration? So if it's not words, what is it? What does it mean to you? That's what it comes down to. What does it mean to you? The mind has to understand the interpretation. The brain has to understand the convergence. The heart has to understand the time. The soul has to understand the light of travel. And the body has to understand and set locations of what? Its vessel. It has to understand all these things, guys. So what it means to you is what happens next through integration. Then you understand its true meaning. It's all psychological. All psychosis of you. How you see it, how you connect, how you feel, and always informs. What does it mean to you? Because it has no relation to anything else or anyone in that position. How you see it is how you become, who you are, and what I am. That position of its process is understanding the mind of its own system, right? So you have to understand why you have bodies. We did a very powerful live, which is powerful stuff, especially with an position of Tiffany, where basically she was all conception and confusion. But right after activation, it's all gone, never existed. A program is set up positions how you see things. And it's all determination, intent, set location, how it's all embedded in your system, location, and implementation, which is extremely real. But to understand the process is the psychological of your own system. This is about you releasing you and taking all that clutter that's not supposed to be there. See, the thing is, you're seeing these things and you don't realize you're building up clutter. Everything that you're doing, everything you're hearing is clutter, 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 clutter. So what are you doing? You're overloading your system. Okay? You're not initiating and running its program or anything through its value. What does it mean to you? Okay, to its vessel of communications, right? So the body itself, okay, is, we already know it's the vessel on cell location to its system. But you see, the thing is, your body is a host, and intelligence needs its host to survive. But the intelligence needs a body, and that's why you guys are put on your earth. It's much easier to identify, right? Whoa, back up here. So, Jenny, you're telling me that the reason why we're on our earth is to identify that our bodies is a vessel first, through its body that's already its body of its own operation of its own system, that's already in its mind of its own setting. Yep. Now, once you identify that, you understand the instructions of the game that you're in psychologically. It's the levels of the game. Okay? The intelligence needs a body to survive. Your body is a host. This is the deeper core. So once you understand that, then you come into the levels of the game. Space-time creator. Okay? Understanding that, then you understand how to process. Then you understand pre-flights. Then you understand net navigation in the vessel that you're in. Right? Because now you have a partnership with yourself. Okay? With yourself. Not knowing you're in a vessel of itself. But that's what you have to understand. That's a collaboration that we have to come into. That's the separation to the equal lines of communications of what's above and what's below. But there's no separation. The equal line is the platform of 24, 48, 72, 144, clocking. Foundations in your cities, how to use that through its hologram, and understand how to use it through its pixelation, and understand how to use its zeros and ones, and understand that you're in a simulation of yourself in a game of itself, playing itself, understanding itself of the levels of the game that it's in, basic, intermediate, and advanced. And you're using your higher self, your avatar, and your sim in different modifications of different obstacles. You're building inventory. You're building traffic flow. Okay? Very simple to understand these things. Very simple. Okay? And life gets a lot more balance once you identify that. Okay? That's why you have bodies on your earth. So intelligence can navigate the body itself. Easy, right? Basic, intermediate, and advanced. And once you get that, you get into your oversoul. Right? But you can also have other lines of intelligence navigating your body. Because all intelligence needs its host. Your body's host, people. Okay? All right. So I think we're on the same track here. Same sector, vector, and quad. Yeah. It's amazing when we understand why we are in a body of ourselves. Not identifying the vessel, identifying us. And then you identify, oh my gosh, my body is a vessel. Thank you, General. And then you realize, wow, that makes sense now because I have intelligence. Once the intelligence gets a comfortability inside you, the energy track, the energy flow has a continuous force, and it's much easier to follow through its instructions. And that's why you guys get upgrades, downloads, uplinkings, and upgradings and downgrading systems inside your vessel. Okay? So it's given to your vessel. It's not given to your avatar. It's not given to your higher self. It's not given to your sim. It's given to you. This is a psychological reset. Higher self, the avatar, the sim, and the oversoul already has that. It's already been through it. Through its earth, through its powers and its atmospheres of everything of yin and yang. It's you. Okay? You are getting the information. You are getting the intel. You are getting all that in position through data of processing you inside the game that you're in, which is all psychological of itself. Okay? All right. Welcome, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Setting position of travel lines or point lines of graph communication settings. The more you identify that, the more you understand the game itself, right? But you have to truly understand when you come into my school, you're automatically going through the game. Okay? The game of you. The psychological game of you. If you get a core track provision, let's get a box frame. Okay? Simple, easy, done, right? Cube. Okay? So you're inside. Try and understand the game. Okay, try and understand. Try and understand this, try and understand this, try and understand this, try and understand that, right? But you can't get out, right? So what you have to do is use the mind, right? Oh my gosh, there's a door. You walk through. It's all psychological reset. You guys already know through muscle memory, right? So you walk through. Look at that. Boom. That was easy. Now, you can't float in space. You need a platform. So you got to create that. Then you got to create another platform. Oh my gosh, this is getting more fun to the inner child, right? So you want to go from here, but you don't want to walk down here. You want to go up, right? So you're using your intent influence that changes everything in position, location, your system through all levels of manipulation. So from here, you're time jumping. Oh my gosh, look at that. So now you go over here, okay? Right? Now you want to fly, but you want to go through 3 platforms, okay? Now you turn in your wings. Oh my gosh, I'm flying in the angelics. Look at that. Wow. Different levels of the game, right? Going from different levels of configuration lines of high center locations and different lines of vessels, communication lines of intelligence. The intelligence is navigating your body, your vessel, through navigation. You're not doing anything. You understand that? But you have to understand the collaboration of the intelligence that's already been through its operation, that's already been through its altered state, which has already been through its awareness of consciousness. You have to understand how to use the telepathy to connect with the intelligence you want to connect inside the psychological of the game that you're in. Okay, in all setting. Okay, 3 levels of the game. 1, oh, intent, open the door. No doors, now's a door. Okay, so you want to go over here, use intent, right? So in that position, you're going through platforms. Every time you change your intent, you're changing the energy, changing the frequency, changing all lines of communication. There's harmonics, but you have to understand all communication with setting, puts everything, calculating lines, send location, your elements that you're using all lines of seconds, minutes, and hours, all through travel. Now you're flying, okay? Now you're flying over here, okay? This is you flying, and there's your Earth, right? And then you go into graph, scan calculation lines, human residence, bar graph, communication setting, all lines of human residence, right? And then you go through a portal, right? Easy, right? Have fun with it, right? So once you understand that, getting into the nothingness is understanding just alone what nothingness means to you, because it means everything different to everybody else. Nothingness is something different to everybody else because you're different DNA. You're all process of it, all position locations, calculations, how to use it into your immortality. Okay, the mortal state that you're in, immortal. The mind of consciousness that you're in, people. Okay, the mind of consciousness that you're in, people. Okay, the mind of consciousness that you're in, people. Okay, the mind of consciousness that you're in, all through travel. Okay. All right, so directing lines of communication line screens, direct lines of highest interference. You guys have that test on Friday settings. So I'm going to go through graph communication lines of zeros and ones. Okay, simplify line rotation, surface interactions, direct signals. One line line, zero line rotation, center line, positional calculation line screens, and position lines of panels and track case line setting. Then we go through electrical grids, panel communication lines of 3 lines of 4 track locations of webbing. See? Always looking at a 4 different angles, never looking at one cycle. Always look at up, down, and cross. Start with that. Then you get a position lines, highest interference, and cross location this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. Oh, look at this. Look at the data highways. One line communicates to grounds, powers, and the atmospheres. Right? And then you go through this. Okay? And then you go through this. Okay? Go through imaginations. This, and this. Right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Then you go through this. Okay? Simple, right? So all you're doing is using formula equations and putting lines of high interference, a box frame, mainframe, what you do in the position of travels. But you have to understand all point lines of graph comes in set location and settings, right? How to understand how to do all this. This is already done for you guys. So it's based on you. When you come on my live and Space-Time Creator, it's not you identifying you. It's you identifying your vessel. It's you identifying your higher self, your avatar, and your sim through the psychological game that you're in, right? But you're here to identify you, of who you are, right? Why you're here. Why do I exist? What is my purpose? What is my identity? Well, all formation lines, awareness of constant location of its nothingness and highest interference. I'm here to understand why I'm here in position location is the purpose of its setting, the location to its existence, to understand that my body is a vessel for intelligence to use through navigation. That's it, easy done. Now, once you get to that point of view, life gets a lot more easy through platforms, through formations, through balance, through yin and yang. Processing gets a lot more easier through understanding why you are here. What is my purpose? Okay, why am I here? Break it down. Why am I here? What is my purpose? My purpose to understand that my vessel is used through navigations of intelligence using me as a set lines of high line communications through navigation. Why am I here? Okay, I'm here to understand the psychological system that I've already done through co-creation. That's why I'm here. What's my identity? To exist all at once. All through the mind. All processed through the brain. how to use the hardware and software of me through navigation. Okay? How to use your heart through time, how to use your soul through light, and how to use your body as a vessel through transmitting and receiving information. It's easy, right? So don't complicate things. That's why the true understanding is the 3 factors overlying: why, purpose, existence becomes the how. How everything operates, getting past the why, getting past the purpose, and getting past the existence, why you are here. Okay? That helps you understand that through design, right? So if you understand your body is recognizing it's a vessel of its own God. Whoa. So if the body itself is its own G, I have to recognize that the body that I'm in is a vessel of itself. Right? So I'm trying to get you guys the basic ground settings to understand position, right? Where you have to have awareness of consciousness of everything. You're connected to everything and everything's connected to you, but you have to understand why, purpose, existence, and how. Everything works. That's all it is. How does everything work? Through data, through file. Now, you guys have been through this in all lines of high position, location, and travel lines, and that direct line signal locations of the levels of the game. Basic, intermediate, and advanced, right? 3 levels of the game, right? Here, let's go. Higher self, avatar, and sim. Okay? Now, these are the avatars you're using inside the game, right? All right, so this is the game level. This is the film strip. Okay? So let's use your higher self. Oh, level game 1, right? Da 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 da. What do you have to do, right? Then you put it back, right? Then you use the sim. So in that position locations, you go to level 2. All right. So in position locations, take out the basic, obstacle line, different levels, cursor line communications, 1, 2, and 3 attractions and settings. Then you get a position location intermediate, right? In position travel lines, the avatar, game 2, right? Sim is game 3. So add another line, 4th line, so you're in position of 1, 2, 3, level 4, and set position of the game itself, right? So using higher self, avatar, sim, you put that together, you have the position locations to your oversoul. Hoo-ah. So the oversoul can go through the earth, the atmospheres, and its simulation all at once. That's what goes on when you go into remote. Okay? All right, so that's going to help you out more levels of the game. So you start with this setting, right? And then you go in this set locations. Okay? It's no difference in playing a game, guys. It's just different obstacles. You can use your higher self, your avatar, your sim, or you can use all 3. You can use all line condition setting, bring it into 1, right? But once you get into that, you come to higher levels of inventory, the data and files. In some location, there's settings, different lines of intelligence. Graph communication lines, folder. This is a folder. Okay. That's the folder, right? All right, so I finished using the avatar, it goes up in graph settings. Finish using the sim, that goes over here in setting. Now I'm going to go in positions and use the gray. Oh my gosh, right? That's all it is. It's easy, right? It's all in your system location settings, but you have to understand how to use the observation, the setting position locations, why you have a beautiful ground setting in position of a cubicle screen line adaptation. You walk inside the platform, right? But there's no windows or doors. So if there's no windows or doors, create it. How do you do that? Use your imagination, right? To understand that is to understand the mind of you. The mind itself doesn't need to be convinced. I'm trying to get you guys to understand these things. It's the mind that you're in is for you to understand you. The basic grounds is understand your body is a vessel to use for the intelligence so they can navigate your system. You don't do anything. Your body is an autopilot now, reaching higher levels of what you already have through attraction. So you're not doing anything. It's all done through the mind itself, right? So when the mind comes in its own system, then you come into all higher levels of the game itself that puts everything in that settings where actually you can use the grays. They help you in all formations inside the game. So they can be a guidance for you. They can be a navigation for you. They can be an oracle for you. Okay, inside the psychological game that you're in. It's the levels of the game, higher levels of the game, higher modifications of the game. Okay, all right. So once you understand that, everything gets a lot more easier and understandable. I said this is fantastic stuff. So this is just a psychological, a remembering cycle, location of muscle memory, which you already know through co-creation, right? You're not coming into something new. You just have to understand how to see it in its platform, why you have a body. Okay? And once you understand that, you come into the H. What is the H? What does the H represent in 3 platforms of communications? E, A, locations, 3 line cycles, 2 track provision lines of 3 communication setting to travel, point lines of graphs, and 3 lines of 2. Equals lines, set location setting to travel, point lines of graph communications of 5 elements. 5 equals lines of elements, right? All line communication are like set locations. Puts lines of calculation lines of height, 4 track location of 5 settings and travel, point lines of graph communication settings of position lines of panels. Okay, H-E-A-R-T, heart. Platforms of 1, platforms of 2, platforms of 3, platforms of 4. Okay, there you go. So it's simple, isn't it? And then it gets a lot more easier when you understand platforms of communication. Okay, so it's the how everything operates inside the vessel. Okay, guys? All right. All right, so in position lines of higher correlation setting, it's going to get more complicated now because we're going to higher lines of formations, lines of equations. Quantum line centers of theta line communication high center interference, putting line communication settings all levels of travels. Communication high center interference into the teleportation grounds, teleportation line surface, and teleportation line setting. Operate line calculation lines of how and 2 panels of communication. H line screen lines of high adaptation lines of 4 tractions. Direct lines of E lines, 1 center locations, 3 line cycles, and 3 track location. Direct calculation lines, platforms, line screen, direct lines, modification line cycles, high correlates to track interference, in line communication line, high rotation surface, and configuration of face calculation. Process calculation lines, such change communication setting. Brain convergence, screen lines, adaptation lines, changing all lines of the heart, direct lines of signals, modify screen interference location system into classic calculations. Galaxy line, screen high interference, in-line communication setting that travels. Points lines of graph communication of 111, 112, 113, 114. 4 weathers, correlation lines in 1 cycle, 1 generation, 1 screen, and 1 adaptation line, surface attraction. Dumb equation. Okay? So, how am I doing all this? Imagination. And how's that done? Through the inner child. The inner child is the process of calming the system. The inner child just likes to play. Okay? Perfect example in position locations. Inner child. It's raining. Goes outside, plays in the rain, right? An adult puts on an umbrella. That's the difference between inner child and adult. The adult itself doesn't understand itself of its inner child, of itself. That is equal lines of correlation lines of track location and settings of separation. So they're separated from their platforms, they're separated from their foundations, and they're separated from their imagination. Right? All through calculation. But you have to understand the equal line is the platforms. Okay, that you go through dimensions of space and time. Time 3 line cycles, 1, 2, 3. Open portal communication line, direct signals in calculation lines to a black hole. Travel through line calculation setting and triangulation line communication setting to a box frame position lines of travel. The more you use your imagination, the more it gets easier in its vessel. The more you direct lines of vessel, the more you see yourself as a vehicle, application of travel. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But you have to understand what the equal line center is. It always has been and always will be. It's the process of equal, what it is above and what it is below, right? Anything that you see through a hologram, you'll see through this, right? right? But it's like this. See that? Wait a minute. The sun's over here, but the sun's over here in two directions. So it's flashing this way and it's flashing this way through perspective, right? So you got to go in this way now, right? So there's always above and there's always a below, but the equal line is the platform of communication settings of balance. Okay? So when you put something on a table, right, you can see the above and you can see the below, right? So you can see the mirror of its image, but it's not reflection, it's intelligence. So once you understand that, it's going past the panels of communications, right? Two panels, line settings, solid grounds, powers over line, powers over screen. Okay? So it's truly understanding in position where the ground is, center core system of its crop circle to its earth set location. Okay? Getting that communication lines into above signal in a 3-line communication setting to all communications to its system, all through travel. Okay? But you have to understand the platforms have to be there through settings in next lines of communication. Okay? How the sun reflects this way or this way through perspective. Shading this way in calculation come in this way, or come in this way in instructions in this direct signals. Okay? So that's what it means to above and below, is understanding that you have two panels, two solid panels. Okay? Massive equation, all right, in position lines attractions. So I'll show you how that works. Now, we understand direct and redirect, right? How we see things. But the platform starts here, but you have to understand it's crossing. It's crossing. It needs a platform so you can see the hologram arise. So it's the platform of intelligence. You have to have a platform or it's going to slide through, right? So it's right over left, left over right. It's a cross between screens and streams, right? So in that position, very powerful stuff, okay? If you close your eyes and you put your hand here, it's solid, right? Right, left, it's solid, right? But if you look through the center, you can penetrate right through the hand and see the other side. You can see the frame, right? It's amazing when you just look in the center, you can penetrate right through the wall, right? So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand these things. What you're focusing on is extremely important through its intent, through its observation, its scanning, its influence, and its manipulation, right? But I'm just showing you how that works with mass and not position locations of solid matter, okay? So when you're looking in settings, you're looking at solid matter here and here, but here is the frame. This is the center. This is the window, okay? This is the invisible, right? So you need matter on both sides, okay? Because you're dealing with the earth and the space, but the in-between is you that's not there. Like Lucy with the car. All right, so I'm just trying to show you how that all works, all right? Okay, so we get that position lines of highest interference. Two panels, solid panels, okay? So try to understand how this all works now, guys, because it gets a lot more easier when you cross screens. Crossing this way, crossing that way, right? You create a platform, guys. It creates its hologram, okay? But it also needs a below, okay? But it also needs a center, okay? And it also needs its window, okay? But you need two solid panels of matter on both sides. The frame itself is the invisible system. So let's say the car is here, right? The car is here, right? So it's just going round and round and round and round and round and round and round. And when it reaches a frequency, it disappears. So when it disappears, it can be anywhere it wants in travel. All lines of a communication, all timelines at once, past, present, future in calculation. That's what is instruction. Okay? Solid matter on both sides, earth and space. The center operation disappears. So you can do wherever you want. Reappear, disappear, stay up here, whatever you want in position. But you have no back frame, you have no window frame, you're just you in the center operation. You have no main frame, you have no box frame. So I'm just trying to get you to understand how this is all set up. You guys were in the matrix of yourself. If you play a video game and position locations and understanding the technology, location, hardware, location of binaries, the position lines, the track, location, line, condition settings. Now you probably see this is a background, okay? But what you have to understand, this is not here, right? There's no foreground, there's no panels, there's no top, there's no bottom, okay? It's just you in the center. But you need two solid centers to bounce you out through platform. That's the equal, what's above and what's below, right? So understand the window frame of you never leaves. And that's how you're able to see and penetrate through that setting of its dimensional wall or anything that you're seeing in attractions, right? You see right through your eye perspective and how you see things through attraction. It's very powerful when you come into that setting because everything starts making sense and how you look around your system and calculations. So you see that car, right? And it just spins, disappears, but it's still there, but it's everywhere. Okay? So that's how it works with past, present, future all at once. Okay? But there is no back frame. There's no main frame. There's no box frame. It's just you in the center, right? But what you have to understand is the balance of you to understand where you are in your vessel. You need two solid panels of earth and space. You are in the center of operation, right? So when you're doing this, the background's moving, right? So it makes it look like an optical illusion and in position that you're moving, but you're not. You're standing still. Doesn't matter what you do. The background's moving. You're running, right? But you're caught in the matrix between two connection settings in position. You are in the center, caught in between two panels of operation. Now, that's all lines of configuration where you are in the mind system in position of your GODs. Caught in two plexiglass, you in the center. Now, when you release those panels, you are just you, right? But to keep the balance, you need solid matter on both sides. It's the operation of you that you see through and you go beyond, right? Your eyes have to adjust through that. They're all through sequencing and all through all lines of highest center interference. Grounds, powers, and the atmospheres and your highways. Omni highways, narrow highways, narrow link highways, correlation highways, track highways, computer framing highways. There's so many highways, so many highways. But once you get in that position locations, you go anywhere you want in all timelines all at once. Because you're at a certain frequency. Okay? That's all it is. Time frame position lines of travels. Now you see the phenomenon in position locations. When I do these things through traction, it's like, how did he do that? He was there and he just disappeared and reappeared. Well, it's all through time frame, right? It's all through correlation. Am I going through space or am I going through timeless? See, I can go through space and I can go through timeless. But there's always panels on both sides. This never leaves. That stays you in the center. So you are just going through this. This is what's happening through you guys. Okay? This is what's happening. You're everywhere and anywhere all at once, all timelines, all in settings, past, present, and future. But this stays open. So you'll be able to penetrate through settings of a set location. Okay? So this is you. Show locations. Scanning lines, right or left, left or right. That's you, right? So in position location, 3 correlation lines, scanning lines, high center interference, 3 lines of communications. Then you get in position crossing signals. You cross the signals. You cross the signals. When you cross the signals, you create platforms to communicate with its holographic, of its design, of its intelligence that you want to communicate with in scan set locations of operation. Okay? Pretty amazing when you start identifying what this is all about, right? All right. So once you get into that, you get into the grounds. Okay, we're going to security line. Okay, start with that. All right. Now we're going to go through blue. Okay, I don't need to go through blue and red because I already know what it is because it's already done. But I'm just showing you how you have to focus on these things through your thoughts and connect with your settings, know exactly what you're doing through travel, position, operation lines, of surface, track, location, what you're trying to take out through equation. Right? Now it's coming out. See? This is coming out. Everything is on standby. Right? Or I can cancel this out. To this to cancel out, I have to add more settings. I have to add the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. Plus, I have to understand the 5 elements in that position location system. And also that I have to coordinate that communication setting to its foundation inline communications of colors. So get inline communication lines at 6 colors core line, because if you're going to 3, you got to go 3 over 5, 5 over 6, or 6 over 8. So that puts position lines of travels in that communication setting high interference. So let's start off with lines of orange. All right, so the orange of the highways are coming in. Okay, just going around the cycles and line communication to its setting. There's the orange, right? All right, but I have to add more lines to cancel out what I just finished communicating with, right? So let's go through gold. Let's go into bold so you can see it more, right? Because I'm using higher levels of intention. Okay, there it is. Boom, right? So this cancels out, and now I'm working with the highways, right? So I can use this and move this around and communicate with it all at once and use it through intelligence. Go into this line communications. Check this out. Amazing stuff. From here, tether there, right? And it tethers here. Oh, look at this. Okay, and it tethers here. And it tethers here. This is how you get abundance. This is how you get manifestation from intelligence. Just showing you exactly, but you have to cancel out first the conversation you had, because it overrides the system if you don't get in position of travel point lines of grass, right? So this intelligence is travel everywhere in that position, this calculation. Booyah. Okay? That's what you can do. You stay in the center of everything. Once you stay in the vessel, that's great. The body just becomes autopilot. You don't do anything. It's the mind that does everything. That's all the conception that does everything, calculation system. The brain does everything through conversion. The connections all levels. The heart does everything in travel lines of lights and travel position point lines of graph, alignments, small light position, time frames, time locking, time sequence, time correlations, time editing in that formation, location, clock, line communication setting. The soul does everything in travel location, line condition setting. But the heart has to recognize its soul. Soul has to recognize the position location of its body that recognizes its vessel of communication, its own system of travel. Okay? But this is what you can get through abundance by communication. Okay? All right. So there's so many ways to understand how to do that. Right? Okay? Using your imagination. Okay? And allowing yourself to be strategic in so many lines of communication, like playing chess or playing checkers or dominoes. Getting communication lines of dominoes. Let's start with the effect and communication lines, highest interference. One domino, right? But you got this all set up, right? So one falls. Okay? They all fall. They all in sync with each other. Okay? They all in sync with each other. They come together, right? Process line, window frame, window track location, solar sail, direct signals, and modification setting to travel. Boom, right? So they all fall, okay, in the same pattern, right? But different locations. Same pattern, different locations. Pause and negative. Sync setting, different locations. Through your thoughts, controlling your thoughts, your actions, and your emotions. Going in the same direction, just different locations. Right? So that's a domino effect. One falls, all fall. Right? All right. So location lines, highest interference, and travels. You go, we all go. Right? All right. So understanding that, you understand patterns and how that works in behavior settings and location in your system through your binary, but it gets a lot more tricky when you understand how to turn on the on and off switch location in your system. 0 gravities, 1 cycle, set position, 2 set location. Point line is a graph, center line. You always have a center, and you're always in the center of operation. So you're always in the center. You never leave your system. You're always in the center. You do not leave. You are in the mind, putting everything in position of balance and how to use the brain through convergence and position of travel, point lines that correlation of the heart through time, and how to use the soul through lights and have a continuous force, and how to use the body of navigation to its vessel of communication. Okay? It's the mind, guys, that does everything. Okay? It's the brain does everything through convergence. So they all have a partnership and a relationship with each other. So once you understand the platforms, it gets a lot more easier. Right? You can do this, you can do that settings. You can go through another platform here, down cross line condition setting, process lines back on your earth. Okay? You can get position locations here. All right? Take this out. I'm finished with line communications to my oversoul. Now I'm going to go back into files of my higher self, working with the earth. Here's the file in position location from oversoul, doing all that, back to the higher self, changing the file, changing the archive, changing the program in the psychology of the game that I'm in. Okay? So I'm just trying to show you more levels, how this all works, right? Understanding how to control your thoughts and your actions and your emotions, right, through the game that you're in through self-modifications. It gets a lot more easier once you understand how to use that through waves, right? Wave central line position locations of settings. All right, so let's get into all levels. We're going to go into routers. Let's go through all line communications, one cycle line, and a 4-track division lines of cycles, location to a setting. Process communication 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, 3 line cycles. Okay, now this is line centers of what? Okay, molecule and a 4-track division. One molecule equals lines of 1C equals line condition setting as C1. And it gets complicated to a vertebrae. Spine adaptations of 2 panels of traction. You see what I did with that? It's applications. Now we add line centers of vertebrae 1 and vertebrae 2, vertebrae 4, vertebrae 6. Correlation lines, highest interference, triangulation lines, 1 molecule, calculation 1 atom router, sets lines and propeller in rotation surface and track location. Direct calculus line, highest interference into 1 atom line condition setting, molecule in design lines to 1 proton, communication lines, the kaleidoscope communication lines to electron into infusion line screen, overcrosses line signals and modification. Process calculation lines and data formation lines, take the molecule design line into 1 atom, routes the system and panel correlation lines attractions and division. Sets communication lines of clock line highest interference, and triangulation lines of highest interference of 2 atom, in rotation surface and portals of communication. Done by equation. Look how powerful that is. Now, what do you want to bring up the equation, right? All right, so let's start with correlation lines of highest interference in platform setting. We'll call this line conditions ABC, right? That's ABC, right? All right, so ABC comes in tractions. We're just going to go through red and white and travel. It's coming out through equation. You see it coming out, right? Everything's all line what? It's not canceled out. It's just on standby. Okay? Now, to understand standby and to understand cancel out is understand the conversation to the intelligence of its file, of its data, of its process of communication. Right? So you're only taking this out through equation. Everything else is on standby of what you set up in its molecules and its atoms, of its neutrons and its electrons, and position to its calculation. Okay? All right. So I know you guys are having a lot more fun now because things are going to be a lot more balanced to understand that if I get position lines attractions and direct signals, okay, this is a box. Just a box, right? I say it's a box, right? It's a box, right? Now, check this out. Is it a box? No. See how I changed that so quickly, right? You can't stay a box in a box, even if it's in a 4-line screen in a 3 triangulation, because it positions the patterns and it stays offline communication. So it's a 4-line signal, 1, 2, 3 lines of 4 settings. So you got 1, 2, 3, of 4. That's its binary. Okay, the singularity is the one center of operation equals lines simulation equals lines of self-modification. Okay, set position lines of attractions, all levels, change lines of 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location of solar sail. Process communication lines of grounds, process communication lines of powers, process communication lines of atmosphere set location. Complicated stuff, right? The more you go higher to the levels of the mind, the more it gets a lot more complicated, but a lot more easier. So platform communication over crosses lines, screens of data of process calculation. Over lines of signals, right? Through all initiation running this program. But you stay lines of settings in 1, 2, 3, and 4 sets communication setting of singularity to your location of self-modification, all through generation. Now, getting into direct line signals, it comes into more lines of solar line connection setting in process calculation. Okay, overrides the system in a triangulational line center that 3-line rotation surface and traction. Okay, all right. So it gets more complicated, but a lot more fun. But I just wanted to show you how you get into that position locations calculation all through molecules, atoms, protons, electrons. How it all comes together in line connection setting, all through configuration and setting. Okay, that stands out. All that's on standby. So once you understand that, and then you understand how everything comes in information location to a system through intelligence, how you can get things through abundance. Okay, but you have to cancel out. Okay, when you cancel out, you bring in the data, the files. Okay, you bring in the highways, right? So now your locations when you go back in time, forward in time, or future of time, right? All through calculation line screens. Because you can't change your past and present and future. That's already alteration done to the state of the mind itself. Because it's already in its nothingness. It's already in its awareness. It's already in its consciousness. It's already been reset already psychologically. And you won't know that until you understand you through psychologically system, to knowing how to use your vessel you are in through navigation. Okay, all through space modulation, right? Okay, so direct line signals puts all communication in your settings and travels. Okay, so we'll go through foundation graph lines of binary and 2 arrow indicators of 3 settings. Clocking lines of 1, clocking lines of 2, clocking lines of 3, and track location line settings in a high position. Okay, all right, so we got a 2-line center and travel point lines of graphs over crosses screen. So sets position lines of highest interference, sets 6 lines of measure, 5 lines of cycles, 3 correlation setting attractions, and we're going to add 48 line screens into 10 positions into 8 volume set location. The process communication lines changes the triangulation lines of its shape and rotation surface and traction. The F directs lines of communication line brings the wind sectors inline communication setting to its weather panels. Process communication lines of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols in its relation to its binary reline connection. Process communication line center interference, we take the 48 line screen, circle line rotations, trifactors lines, box lines of 10, and line condition lines and circle lines of 8 in track location. Sets lines of communication high center interference of 2 atom line rotation surface and track location. Cross line signals. Process communication lines of the sun comes in position location to its moon in track location to its setting, all through measures and scales and balance calculation. Flywheel line center comes into the center core system, all levels of figure 8 line rotation surface. That's my equation. See? What do you want to bring in through equation? Let's start with set location line centers, just the platform. Just in red, constantly just in red line, right? So this is coming out through equation and everything's on standby. Now, if I want to change this in center operation of its binary, of its transistor, of its intelligent location system, to get out of the equation location system, I have to cancel out, right? Which means it has to override, right? So when I override, I'm going to change this to green. Let's go through higher levels of bold, to green. Okay, that's an override, right? So in position location, this cancels it out. Then you just communicate with this in triangulation. Okay, there you go. Now you understand. So this comes out and this goes back to its nothingness. It cancels out, right? Information panels is an intelligence on its own system, all through tractions, guys. Okay, all through calculation modification. But you have to understand how all lines of high line interference, how it works in this application. Okay, very powerful stuff, right? Because you guys are coming to more modifications to the mind now. And the more you come into the conception, the more you understand the illustrations, the more you understand the drawings, the more you understand the schematics, you understand more lines of how to use your vessel, not just the navigation system, but knowing exactly the body is doing everything that's already done in this equation, right? Let's get a film strip line position. This is what it is in traction. That's all it is. That's it. And this flashes on its wall. Okay, that's all it is. Boom. And this comes in the eye cycles in application. That's how it sees, right? So it sees through its window frame, guys. Okay? But always see it at a 4-line different angle, right? It's amazing. Oh, it disappeared. It disappeared by itself. Whoop, it disappeared, right? Sometimes it does that, right? But it's showing you what it can do through its own intelligence, how it can disappear or reappear. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. So it wants to go back to its frequency. It's telling me, right? I say, that's crazy, Jenna. Are you telling me that everything that I draw is disappearing and reappearing? Yeah, because it doesn't want to be staying at this frequency, which means you don't have collaboration, which means you don't have balance with the intelligence of its awareness that you're connecting to through its consciousness. That's all it is in tractions, right? That's why things disappear. That's why solar text disappear. That's why you can't see anything that track locations. That's why you have configurations of problems with your phone or your computers or your car or anything you wear or anything you eat or anything you drink, because you don't see it as information of balance of intelligence that's already in your system in collaboration of its psychological connection that you already have through co-creation. Okay? Mega multipass on that. All right? All right. Getting track division lines at high centers, getting binary communication lines at high center interference and resistors, and 2 track communication in 3 settings. All communication lines. 3 tractions over 1, right? So it's lines of 3 into 6 over 8. 3 track division. Let's go to line center high interference into 9 tractions, into 8 lines, changing 9 line settings. Puts binary communication lines of 3, 9, 9, bracket communication. Okay? It's amazing, right? Now I'm going to take the line communication settings. Now I'm going to separate the communication of box frame, mainframe, and computer operation line connections and matrix. I'm going to get 5 line cycles. I'm going to split lines of anomaly of 5-2 traction into 50 and 1 center correlation. 5-2, 5-1, right? Sets correlation lines of 6 over 8 over 10, and line centers on 11 and 12 set location. All right, so we go through line centers of symbolism, core track location of binary lines, graph communications, rain graph communication matrix line, communication lines, frame lines, track communication lines, provision. Now, it gets very confusing because I'm going to add line calculation setting. I'm going to change the line to high center interference, add it to 53. That overcrosses the connections. Now, line center locations and setting. The calculation line interference, we're going to add 30 line tractions and direct lines to high interference of 15 line volume. Into line condition, let's add 9 lines equals lines of 10 and track communication lines of 12. Sets communication high centers of travel position of point lines of graphs. Getting communication lines of grounds, power generation lines of center, operation surface into an XT1000 with set location. Calculate and modify direct lines of high centers of 3 platforms, 4 platforms, and location setting your cerebral cortex lines of design. Syntax correlation track interference, high set locations of 54 tractions. Indirect line signals into modification lines in a portal communication lines in a wormhole in line center high interference in a half pipe and design line and travel correlations of track location. Yeah. And position travel point lines of graphs. All right. So it's amazing how that sets up our travel point lines of graphs, right, through a half pipe, all through an XT1000 screen. So in that position locations, now what I'm going to do is you don't usually talk to the center. You can talk to whatever you want, but I'm just showing you this is an overdraft. An overdraft is going through the line position location. Everything's in front view, okay? But you have to understand, if you want to communicate with that, that's an overdraft. That's a center graph, overdraft, all right? So you connect with that setting. Now let's just go through white. Okay, we're just going to go through white, but we're still going to go through the half pipe. Okay, this is the half pipe, but it overrides the system location of center operation, right? It overcrowds the system. It changes the traffic flow over its overdraft to the center graph, people. Okay, setting lines of communication lines. Let's go into red. Now we're going to the security line. Now it's going to stand out the override to the center graph correlation. Okay, then we're going to see what it's doing. See what it's doing? It's going 15, 14, 13, back to 15, right? So it's going back and forth through its binary of its transistors and its resistor set locations. Now we're going to go through green, through its half pipe, still a half pipe, okay? But it's still overriding the center core lines of the center graph communication XT1000, right? Comes out through equation. Now you see the center line communication settings, right? Overdraft, center graph, okay? Crossing the line, see? Crosses through, okay? So you have to understand how this all works in their center core setting in travel. All right, so in that position, you bring another XT1000s, comes in cycle, traveling through the set location that you created, linking this setting to its half pipe. It goes through and out through its equation, in and out in audio in calculation, right? Okay, so that's an over psi. Over psi, okay? So track division lines is line centers of in track location. There's always an out in line setting, okay? Always an in, always an out, all through a half pipe, okay? But it's very powerful when you do an overdraft to a center graph, all through an XT1000. Okay, powerful stuff, isn't it? Right? So the more you bring it into depth, the more you bring it into width. I'll show you exactly what it is in directions. I want you to understand how to get into swirls and tunnels and wormholes and travel. How to understand to get into the complexity. How to understand how to use your weather patterns through bandwidths over pi. Streaming in that position to its correlation setting of its codecs and its calculation modification of its unification. Know exactly how to go through that through position. Let's start with the grounds. This is a just continuous force. All right, this is direct and redirect, direct and redirect, direct and redirect, direct and redirect. Look what it creates. Direct and redirect, right? Now, you could break it down and communicate with certain parts of its graph of schematics. Remember, everything is data, everything is file, all through setting, okay? So, what's missing in tractions here? Correlation graph, over graph. Correlation graph, over graph, okay? Because it's nothing here. So you take the files and put it here. There's a file. You take another file and you put it here. There's another file in the mainframe. You take a file and you put it here. 3 files in correlation, right? So you bring that out through equation, right? Let's go through purple, right? So when you go through purple, which is a high line communication of color, it overrides the system, okay? This comes out through equation, right? This overrides the system, because now you communicate with the files. Let's add the equations of 3 settings. Okay? Now, in the center core system, it goes into the center line of the tunnel of operation. Files communicates lines, changes lines of direction, and files of communication lines of A, B, C, and D setting. Process calculates lines of color. Let's go into the red. Process communication lines of red. Process communication lines of red. Process communication lines of pi, process communication lines of downshift, cross location line setting, process lines over cross setting that puts lines of purple over red in calculation. Okay, and then we got red in the center in its applications. All right. So once you put that all together, it formulates and accumulates the communication centers of travel. How you see the location sending through tunnels. Data files and line center location is all about understanding how to go through the files of communication lines of graphs and center core centers to travel and position operation to its surface. Puts lines of grounds, powers, and atmospheres in space location. Platforms of setting, platforms of correlation lines of traction. Okay, now we're going to add another platform going right through the center of operation. Okay, now you see the platforms going up. Okay, that over-sequences the settings and overdrives the system through the centric calculation lines of its tunnel. I know it's complicated stuff, right? But I'm just trying to show you. So once you get in that position locations, you can change the line signals. Remember, you can do anything in the line. You can have the symbolism line screens of zeros. 3 platforms of communication. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 2. Okay, so that's a 2 overdrive because you added 2 there, right? Sets correlation lines as 0 lines. Let's bring it down to frame lines of 0, 0 interactions. Overcross line time jump in line position of 3 settings in travel. Points lines of graph in line setting in operation surface to an XT1000 that overcross the signals in travel. That's my equation. Very, very complicated stuff. Okay. Now, if I add configuration lines of coloration lines of pathogens, this overrides the system of its matrix in travel. See, watch. Overrides the system of its matrix of travel. I'm just redirecting and directing in position to its operation surface in track location to one configuration of one setting to one operation line settings of files of communication setting in security of calculation. Cool. Okay. It's amazing what you can do. And you bring in the XT1000s of platforms, okay, because you change it to red, right? So you change it to red, that overrides, it cancels out, right? So black and then it comes into red. So red comes in. Black goes down here in travel, crosses line screens, highest interference, overrides the system, go through its portal. Okay, the red starts in the center operation line surface and center core system. It expands in line setting of its operation surface that puts lines across location lines to its holographic string and set calculation. Okay, but always see it on a 4 different angle, right? Okay, so if you look really close, you can see the intelligence, right? Look at the intelligence. Look. You'll see a face. See the face? See the face? See the face? It's amazing when you understand there's a face of everything that you see in travel. So you don't even identify that until you identify what a face recognition of time sequence is in travel point lines and graphs. Puts everything in perspective. Okay? Puts everything in perspective. There's the intelligence. See it? Okay? It's position location. So nothing is upside down and nothing is upside right. It's that calculations. All right. Very complicated stuff. Very complicated, especially when you come in your binaries. So transition lines of screen gets a lot more modification lines of balance to understand how to use that through time and line position location in your systems. All right. So when you get into track visualizer cycles and when you have to go through past, present, future, you go through time of space or space through time. Right. That's what the team can come into interactions, but you have to understand the modification lines of intelligence first. You have to understand how to cancel out. You have to understand how to override, overdrive, overgraph, center graph. So, and you all do it through a graph. Break it down. Okay. Break it down all through graph. Okay. Sets position of 2 lines, highest interference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Center core system, center over line setting. Earth. Okay. And then you got the line center location to system of its roots and ground center. Operation system, travel line settings across line screens and the lines of 3 platforms in line position location setting of 4 track lines at 3 set location. Okay. Astral projection. Pyramid. Right here. Film strip. 1, 2, 3 settings. All right. Cross line, 45-degree angle. Look at that. Look how powerful that is. All right. So you're always creating holographic of designs of travel, all through calculation. Okay? But you have to stand your platforms. How to go this way. How to go this way. Right? It gets more complicated, right? Because you're adding platforms of communication setting. Right? How to go this way. All right? Look at that. Boom. Complicated stuff. So what do you want to equalize the correlation lines of setting? What do you want to bring up the equation? Let's bring up the pyramid. But this time, we're going to go through pixelation graphs. We're going to color it in through block centers. Okay, but I'm going to go through space bars. Okay, very complicated stuff, guys. When you get to higher levels of the matrix, it gets more complicated. Okay, Center core system of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's lines of high correlation setting. That's travel position point lines. Graph communication lines of space of zeros in center. Okay, zeros are in the center, correlations and attractions. That overrides the sequence. Okay, now let's cross the streamlines and let's go into the cloak and dagger. Over cross line screens, high center interference. Then we go in position. So what we're doing is we're creating dimensional layers of higher line screen, higher levels of travels in position to its operation surface. Okay, so now we go into purple, right? Okay. This is the settings and coming out, and this is on standby. Okay. So if you want to cancel out, you have to really understand how this works through the overgraph and the center graph correlation. So it's understanding the positive and negative has to go in the same setting, just different locations. And you're fine. You're fine because you're working with the inner spectrum and the outer spectrum. Inner spectrum, outer line cycle. The inner cycle is the inner system of view, which is the inner line condition setting, which puts you in position locations to your system in center calculations, right? You start with the light web. You don't start with the dark web. When you use a computer, you don't override your system right away. You're in 1/10 of a frame. Dark web. That's it, nothing else. Everything else, light. Okay? It's not about 50 dark and 50 light. No. Until you understand space modification, until you understand the full correlations of the matrix, you start with settings of 1/10 of a frame. Then you go into 12, then you go into 24, then you go into 48, then you go into 72, and then you go into 144. Once you get to 144, then you come into the crystal of your holographic cities of set design that's set up for you through outer space. How to use that through your 12 ground foundation settings into your clocking system. All through calculation. Okay? All through setting. Okay? So what you're dealing with is the matrix line screen that's coming out through equation, all through foundations, all through its city, all through pyramid, right? All through Merkaba. But what you have to understand, this is snowy graph interference. It's black and white. Okay? That's the difference. Okay? T reception, snowy graph interference. Because this is on standby, this is standing out. Okay? Now you got to bring this in bold and cancel this out. Overrides the pyramid position of travel in correlation. Okay? All right. So hopefully you guys get a little bit more understanding how you have to break these things down, everything that you do through letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Okay? Starting with the graphs. Break it down. Break it down. Right? So how many signature lines do you see there in settings? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? But what do you see first? What comes to mind when you see the center? Direct and redirect. What do you see? What do you see? Do you see 2 panels? Or do you see 1 center? Or do you see 4 lines? 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you see first? You see what I mean? How you center yourself is extremely important. But the center core system has to understand what you're doing through crossover. When you cross over, what are you in position of? Here and here. Okay? The center core system is here. Okay? That's you. The platform is you in the center of operation. That's where it gets in position lines of travel and mechanism. Okay? You never leave. You never leave. You're in timelines all at once. So what's happening is the center graph of the overgraph is changing communication lines of its program in position of center operation that just grows and expands and evolves and set location to its setting of its webbing. Creating webbings, lines, of screens. Plasma line, generation lines, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, right? Now that position locations, let's go into red. Okay, so there's red around the setting, the set location is all levels, right? Up, solar flare, boom. You saw the track lines come in, then we come into red, right? Now I'm not canceling anything out. I'm just bringing something out through design, through its holographic setting in set location. All right. Let's go through white. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating graph screens and traffic flow to high lines of force of recognition. Let's go into all levels of orange. Let's go into a little bit more bold so you can see it more, right? Okay, let's go into green. Let's add a bit more bold. See what it does in position locations, what you do in interactions? Let's go into more bold. Let's go into blue, into center core system. Okay. Let's go into line communications of purple and center position. Okay. And let's go into purple on outside position, inner space, outer space. Look at that. Look how powerful it is. All right. Okay. Now it just comes out. It just comes out now. See? Right. But I didn't cancel anything out. But it's getting bolder. Right. It's getting thicker. So it's kind of like when you're walking towards something, you see something getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Layers, 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 layers. And you'll go looking up and there's the structure. So it's G, but it has two solid panels of matter. Okay. Your body is a configuration of its matter of its own system of positional track lines of its earth and its space. Earth, space, earth, space, earth, space. Crossover. Right? Direct, redirect, direct, redirect. Right over left, left over right. But you have to create the platform, the hologram, so you can communicate through the line screen into its system and position of center operation through its frame of communication. See the box frame? Right? So your vessel is in the center. That never leaves. Okay? The mind, the heart, and soul travels out. You stay in the center of operation. Your body is a mechanism of navigating, but it doesn't leave. Okay? It's the mind, the brain, the heart, and the soul. Okay? Navigates the vessel of communication, of expansion, bandwidth over line, bandwidth over pi, right? So it gets much more easier to understand that. It's opening up the mind, people. Going through expansion, okay? Longitude, latitude, coordinates. Understand how to travel, okay? So you stay in the center, but you have to understand the platforms that you go through, right? Platforms, the earth, platforms of center, platforms of magnetic highway. Okay? 3 lines of communications, grounds, powers, and atmospheres, right? But then you got to deal with line condition settings into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set location settings. That's a process that communicates to a system, all through traction, right? Then you got your data highways. Oh my gosh, what's going on here? Whoa. You're expanding yourself. You're growing your expansion of yourself. Okay, the exposition of location settings of travel and mechanism line setting locations. But you stay in the center of operation. You just come into this in correlation. Okay. Bandwidths over lines, screaming location setting to travel, point lines of graph, all communicate to a system all through travel. Okay. All right. So we're going to stop there. There's a lot going on right now. So it's like, whoa, okay, this is a lot to take in. So just the basic grounds, just the remembering cycles, how to use all levels of you, understanding the mechanisms of you, the vessels of you, understanding the games of you, psychological system, understanding the levels of the games of you, understanding how to play the game of the instructions of the vessel that you're in calculation to its system. All right. See you in 5.